how many lines going vertical?
4.
3. How many lines going horizontal? 1. So, use a ruler if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And start breaking up your space into those categories. If you can't read any of it, go closer. Yep, the whole thing.
You don't even make a box around it?
You don't have to make a box around it.
Do you have to label them?
Yes, you want to label them all. Yeah. Make sure you label them, otherwise you're not going to know which one's which. Yeah, your boxes don't have to be perfect. You don't have to actually like measure them out. That's fine. So your Sharpies are there. Sharpie? There. Go through and label each one, just label it inside the box. Make your life easier. Okay. Does everyone have paper towels?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll want those. How are you guys doing?
Not good.
Not good. You're not done yet?
She has to make her measurements right.
Oh, goodness.
If it's
We might be starting without you.
Each square is 2.75 wide and 2.5 tall.
If my competitions, I would
just measured it.
You guys cracked me up. I didn't even think to measure mine.
It's really quick
I
calculation.
just eyeballed it.
I will never eyeball anything.
That doesn't surprise me.
Roasted chicken. How's that roasted?
Not really roast. Yeah, that's a good thing.
You have to sharpen it.
No, you don't have to sharpie it. As long as you can read it, that's really all that matters.
Pals with him too. My handwriting's gonna be perfect.
Honestly, I know I'm just going to throw this away when I get home.
Okay.
Well, once I have my right checkbooks.
Hey, you take it out.
What?
So I don't know why.
No, it just,
It's not gonna be as perfect as I'd like it to be, but it's
As long as it's something you can live with. Yeah. We did do this with some of you guys, but a lot of you, or at least a handful of you, weren't in my class last year. So you didn't get to see this.
I lost my eraser. Oh no.
And it'll be a refresher for those of you who did.
I love painting the most. They make me feel happy. They're less baby. This is dry.
Place some towel. Okay, are we good? Enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so could I have everybody come on over here? Do you want to bring a chair? Bring a chair. Okay, are we good?
I think so.
Just up. Join us. Okay. So, first things first, you need to know what you have. Especially for the couple of you guys who weren't in my class last year, I want to make sure you know what the different things are so that when I tell you to go grab something, you're not sitting there like, wait, what? What am I doing? So, watercolor palette. This is your, I call them wells, your little wells of color, and then your mixing palette is on the opposite side. I recommend the brushes that were once white and are now currently stained from paint, but these are your best bet for watercolors. Sometimes the softer ones are a little harder to control, so I don't personally use them as often. So, pretty much that's it. So first one is wet on dry, which sounds really obvious, but what do you guys think the first thing I would do to start watercoloring? A lot of you already know. What's the first thing I do? Wet your brush? Okay, then what do I do? Choose a color. Yeah. So as I used to tell my little 3-year-old students, you want to be gentle with watercolors and pretend like they're a teeny tiny little mouse, and you're being extra gentle because you don't want to hurt it. So sometimes they can get soft and you'll feel like you can gouge them out, but don't gouge them out, just sort of like gently go across the surface of it. So wet on dry is literally wet paint, dry paper. Wet on dry is just basic watercoloring, so that's just dip my paintbrush, dip it in some color, and start painting. And I can test that out however I want. I can see what the capacities of my brush are. If I use just the very tip of my brush versus pressing it down all the way, I see a huge difference. So that's something to be aware of. If I'm coloring in a really tiny spot, would I use just the tip or press it down all the way? Yeah, just the tip. Because otherwise, if I press it down, look how much bigger the mark is versus this. So if I'm filling in something really small, I definitely don't want to press my brush all the way down, otherwise I go out of the space really quickly. So, if that was wet on dry, what do you guys think wet on wet is? Yeah, so I'm just going to clean off my brush, test it, okay, totally clean. And I'm going to paint with water over my square. And it's kind of hard to see. It helps if you hold it at an angle, you can see it. Yeah, Emma can see it perfectly because she's down low. So, now I'm going to take another color, and I usually do this with a darker color so I can see it a little better. But I'm going to try to make a line. And it's not really going to make a line. What happened? It bled, it kind of like explodes out from the middle. So I could even just dot down, and quickly it expands. So here's my question to you. Better for larger things or more detailed things? Larger. Definitely larger. Why wouldn't I want to use this for something really detailed?
Because if you're out of the area.
Yes.
Unless you just put the water in the area that you wanted.
Yeah, so you can use it in a controlled manner, but it's definitely a little bit harder. So if I was painting, say, a face, and I had painted the whole face and it was still all wet, and I go to do an eyeball, and say I'm using black, what's going to happen?
It's going to bleed everywhere.
It's going to bleed like crazy. All of a sudden, half the face is going to be covered in black. So you want to make really certain that stuff is drying before you add on top of it. You can definitely paint on top of paint with watercolor, but you have to let it dry. Otherwise, it just does that. So, how do I describe a pastel color? How do I describe it?
Kind of light.
Kind of light. guys learned that when we did watercolor, or not watercolors, the color wheels. So we did tints and shades. So you want to do a tint, but I don't have white. So we used white before. So what do I use? Water. So in my mixing palette, I'm going to clean off my brush and I'm going to drip a little bit of water into the mixing palette and then take a really small amount of color and start mixing it. The way I do this is I generally have a tester sheet and I gradually add a little more color to see. So my first one, I almost can't see it at all. So I'm going to add a little bit more color and add a little more. And you'll see with some of these colors, especially your darker colors or your red, those are really strong colors. So you add a teeny bit, it goes a long way. If I added very much, I would just get straight red immediately. So test yourself. Kind of see how much does it take to get back to maybe what you would expect to be the stronger color that you can get out of it. Just like that. So, to mix two colors together, you guys know this, we did this with color mixing for our color wheel already. But using these, it's a little different. So kind of in the same concept when you were working with a acrylic palette, you would take a little bit of your yellow, put it into one of the little spots, take a little orange, put it into one of the spots, right? You wouldn't mix it right in that actual color, because then you lose all your color. So same concept. I'm going to take a tiny bit of a color, put it in my mixing palette, and add a little bit more of a different color, and mix it there. I'm never going to mix in the actual wells, otherwise I will ruin my colors. So you want to make sure you're mixing in that side area. So you can start with just two colors, as the description says, but if you want to add more than two, you can. I just want you guys to test out mixing colors and see what happens. So, does anyone have questions on any of these techniques? No? Okay. So, go back to your seats and start on these techniques. If you guys got a small cup like this for water, I would recommend getting a bigger one. I just don't fill it all the way. These are just more often spilling than the other ones are. So the others are a little more stable. Yeah, it's for the next part. Getting distracted. You guys can talk. You're fine. I'm going to play music in a second. So I'm going to start passing out some of the supplies that you need for the next 4 techniques. Just leave them alone. You don't need to touch them yet.
see a color I like, I'm like, oh, I like that color. Just put water.
That's awesome. It's kind of fun to try integrating more than just one color into the wet on wet to see how they mix together. Yeah. It's kind of like getting to see it mixing, but a little different. Not tinted enough. Or too tinted. Yeah. With red especially, if you're trying to do a tint with red to get a pink, you really don't have to use very much red at all. It's such a strong color. Same thing for grays. You really don't need to add very much black. Like the smallest amount you can. Got enough water? You might need more. What do you guys think you would use the wet on wet technique for?
Maybe like an eye.
Fireworks or an eye? Yeah, fireworks for sure, like the iris of the eye. What other things could you use it for?
Ocean sky.
The flower, the ocean, sky. Totally, it'd be good for clouds. So you kind of have to work in reverse somehow. So if you guys have a very dirty side of your palette, you can always clean it off just by wetting a paper towel and kind of wiping it out. And if it's really, really bad, we can actually take out the color sections, the little wells of color, and just wash off the actual palette itself. I may or may not be talking to you. Ooh, yeah, it'd be great for a galaxy, for sure.
That's salt.
You'll see. It's so pretty. I love mixing colors with watercolors.
Can we do this? Can we just pink dots? And then extra wet and then do a bubble?
Yeah, you could, and then sort of drop the paint down onto it. Yeah, definitely.
Road. Road.
With bubbles dry.
It's a creative endeavor to make it happen.
That sounded easy.
So you guys can try with the wet on wet too to draw a shape with your water. So like draw a heart or something and then put the water, or put the color into it rather. A couple of you guys are doing it. Huh? You're good for now. Try it on the mixed colors. Try making a little shape or something.
Wait, is 8th grade art a long time?
A year long. 5th period. No, I have the health classes in my room.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That worked really well.
I used the wet on wet for a week.
Nice.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, are you ready to smell?
Oh, wait, no, I thought you meant water. No, I have water in the backpack today. I thought you meant this water.
So let's take like 2 more minutes to finish up
Oh, you
these
know what I'm
top
gonna do?
four
I'm gonna mix
techniques.
red and blue.
I didn't
The one by the library.
Does anyone want to pass it?
You're fine.
Actually,
Off my palette.
can I actually have some salt?
You still have one more to finish.
I have water.
Then a little bit more, you make it more like. What? No, it looks like.
Or you just get it out of the fingers. So if one of your colors surface is kind of muddy too, you can just sort of rinse it out using your brush. Just keep wiping the water across it, and that should help.
Okay, I made an ombre brush. Let's see how it turns out. Basically the top part of my brush. Whoa! Okay, so that works. Wait, I'm gonna get a bigger brush.
Nice mixed colors, guys. Mixed colors are the best. They're so much prettier than the colors that are in the palette.
Mixed colors? I'm gonna get myself some mixed colors. Okay. How do I do that? Oh wait.
Okay, so
So I'm gonna do yellow green. So I'm gonna palette really neat.
So 1 more minute to do that last couple ones.
So today I'm gonna show you guys how to make the yellow.
You're doing your YouTube introduction. It's really funny, a lot of those tutorials, they all sound really similar. It's all the same, like,
Hey
okay,
guys,
so
what's
we're gonna
up?
do this. First thing you need to do is like this. Next thing you need to do is like this. I guess it makes sense. You're going through a process.
Get some more pigment in there.
So you guys, if your watercolors feel sticky, it means you need to use more water. Or if you're seeing a lot of little white spots showing up, it means you need to use more water.
This doesn't perfect you. I made purple.
You made purple? Nice.
Keep watching. Keep watching. This is like half the show. See, I made purple. Yeah, he's saying that. Soak up the extra. It's not green.
Okay, so if you haven't finished the last one, we should finish it up a little bit later. Come on back over. Alrighty. So, okay. Salt seems like a really weird thing to use for art, but it's actually really neat. It gives you a really interesting effect because the salt soaks up the water and the pigment, and it kind of disperses it in a different way. So this one's really good for some other projects, like, what could you use salt for? I feel like it's really good for like starry sky or snow, because it gives you little dots, kind of. Yeah, and blue. It's true. So,
Whoa, yours is so cool. How did you make it purple and white?
I did purple and blue. Yeah.
Why?
So,
Why is it purple and blue?
I think the blue has a little bit of green in it. So to do the salt technique, I personally think it's more fun to use more than one color when I do this, but the paper has to be pretty drenched, pretty wet, in order for the salt to actually do its thing. If it's too dry, it won't really do anything. So I usually try to cover the whole space. I might switch to my bigger brush. Sometimes when I'm painting, I try to have a bigger brush and a smaller brush so that I can just switch them out quickly and not have to get up and deal with it and get distracted. So you want to cover your page the best you can. This could be good for certain little details too. So I'm just going to take a pinch of salt and sprinkle it, and actually the less the better. If you put too much of it on, it just sort of sticks to it and never comes off, because we're going to brush this off once it's totally dry. So can you guys see what it's doing? It kind of like pulls the color into the salt. I don't know why, but it's very cool. So, we're doing one thing that kind of pulls the color towards it. The next thing we're going to do is going to actually push the color away. So what happens when I mix water and oil?
They explode.
They explode. No, they separate. One sits on top of the other. There you go. And you know what? He's not in this class, bud.
Not.
Mm-mm. Thank you. So water and oil separate, right? That's because one has the oily texture, the oily component of it pushes the water away. So when I use a wax crayon, it has that oily component and it's going to push the water away from it. So something I learned in printmaking is that's actually called hydrophobic. So hydrophilic is something that likes water, hydrophobic is something that doesn't like the water and it's going to push the water away. So if you were to resist something, so that's the word we're looking at, is resist. So if I was resisting something in life, what would I be doing? Avoiding it or ignoring it, yeah, pushing it away. So same thing. So you guys know the word resist. That's what we're doing with this. So to draw with a white crayon, you're not going to see what you're doing unless you get it at an angle, or you might kind of be able to, but I generally can't see what I'm doing. It's kind of fun, kind of like an experiment. You don't know what it's going to look like. If I tilt the paper, can you guys see it from farther away? Being right on top of it, I really can't see what I'm doing. And I'm going to try doing some little dots, because that's really good for the night sky.
You went outside the leaf.
I did. I'm not on the leaf anymore, I'm making dots. So, to see this one, I don't recommend using a lighter color, I do recommend using a darker color, so you'll see it a little bit better. As you guys can tell, I like cool colors. Not really on purpose, just always end up using them. They're fun. Oh, I like them.
Because you can see them.
Yeah, you can see them really well, that's part of the reason.
They look fun. You went outside the leaf.
I was trying to go outside the leaf. So you guys can see the little dots.
Oh, it's like this magic marker thing you like draw and it like draws it on.
That sounds familiar.
Oh yeah, you saw it in the book fair. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, I remember those.
Really good.
Yeah, so you can write secret notes to people and hand them what looks like a blank piece of paper. And they're gonna be like, why are you handing me this? You're like, just put watercolor on it, you'll see. So, wax resist is really good if you're trying to maybe outline something. I've done it for a lot of different lessons. My favorite lesson I used to do with my little kids was to do jellyfish. And you would draw them with the white crayon and then paint the water over the top using wet on wet. And it's beautiful. They always come out really great. So, we know what resist is now. So the next one is tape resist. So tape resist, what you're going to do that is you're actually just going to put tape down in some shape on your paper. And some of you guys have already been trying this. I've already seen it happen. And then you paint over it, and once it's dry, you can remove the tape, and it leaves behind the shape that you were making. So it's kind of hard to make something super intricate using tape. Yeah, it's hard to get curves. So for curves, you have to put together lots of small pieces in order to get a curve. Otherwise, you're pretty much going to get straight lines. Some artists do this along the border of their artwork so that they have a nice white border around the edge. So it's really good for that. Painter's tape, glue tape like this, works best for it because it won't tear the paper, especially not with this nice watercolor paper that we're using. With regular paper, it might tear it, but hopefully this won't. So make sure that it's pressed down pretty good, otherwise the water will get underneath it, even though it doesn't seem like it would. What would you come up with a good idea for?
Just put little drops of water in the freezer.
Oh, I wonder what would happen once it unfroze. I guess it would. I wonder if it would leave behind marks though. Like if you put color into it. So I'll let that one sit. I do. I really like blue and purple and green. They're my favorite colors. They also just mix so well. Yeah.
I don't think you can green mix well.
No. That's why I haven't used green. So, bleeding with regard to painting, not with regard to our bodies. What does bleeding look like?
When you hold the paper up and it just like drops down.
Okay, that's one way. What else does bleeding look like?
Like when you're unintentionally mixing two colors together.
Yeah, so what would happen is generally if I painted here and I painted right up next to it, when this was still wet, they kind of fuse together down the middle. So we're actually going to try to fail. This is your moment to fail on purpose.
I don't have to
So, basically, we're going to purposely make two colors bleed together. We want them to bleed together so that you can see what needs to happen in order for that to happen. So, I'm going to paint one color. Doesn't really matter how you do this. Oh no. Chill out. And I'm going to paint another one right next to it, and I'm going to try to get them to bleed together. So it kind of bleeds together and mixes. You can also catch that by doing kind of that wet on wet technique. By putting another color over the top of one.
Don't you have to use like a yellow color and a dark color?
You can use a dark color and a light color so that you can really see what you're doing. Yeah, so I'll do blue and then I'll try putting yellow. This kind of watercolor paper is really, really good. That's why I did that.
Can you put water down and then the two colors go together?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it definitely mixed together. I can try moving my paper around and kind of let it roll.
I like seeing them as squares.
Yeah. Does anyone know what the word for that is? Think science.
Tension.
Surface tension.
Surface tension, exactly, because that part's already wet, so it can travel across it, but it's not going to go onto it. So, let's do the last four techniques. The salt you only wipe off at the very end once it's dry.
Where's the salt?
Everyone should have a little container of salt at their table.
I'm gonna take a while to do everyone, so I'm just gonna start with salt because it might take a little while. Because I'm making colors. And so I'm making a rainbow kind of brush for everyone, and it's gonna take a while.
If you do a lot of
I
yellow,
don't know why.
tiny bit of purple, you probably would get it.
But whatever.
Like a really tiny amount. So when you guys are doing the salt one, make sure it's really pretty wet. It will not work if you don't do that. Yeah, totally. I think it's interesting to do two colors of salt because sometimes one piece of salt might pull up all one color and another might pull up another color. It's really fun.
I made a pink. Is that pink?
Pretty.
That's red.
No, it's pink. I mean, it is red in water, but
Wait, I made
looks
red.
pink to me. How did you do that?
Yeah, purple and green makes gray, and if you lighten it,
Honey, we figured that out.
Nice. Add more water on this one.
I mean, it's
sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
It's not working for me.
Don't freak out if it doesn't work.
Sometimes it's mean.
You should draw a flower.
I need some tape.
I'm gonna draw.
Sometimes it just works better than others. I don't really know what the deal is with that. I think it's different crayons maybe work better too.
That's all mine.
This one right here.
Oh, but
Mine works.
Your wax isn't working. That works pretty well. I think where you press down harder maybe it works better.
I know, maybe it's not hello.
What color shall I use, guys?
I pressed hard.
Oh, wait, haven't used orange yet. Miss Layton.
What? Didn't work?
No, mine didn't work.
I have no idea. Use a darker color. It'll be easier to see it.
Just wipe it off.
Because right now it's kind of hard to see when you use a light color. Your
I used
color
orange.
works too?
How do I get a darker orange?
Sometimes if you take a little bit.
No.
I don't know what. Maybe like newer crayons versus older crayons. They're more oily or something. Here. You have to go over it for it to show. There you go. Give it a second. Good job, kids.
I tried to do a star.
Blind contours. They're so fun. I've seen a lot of really cool ones online. Some people get like really good at it, which seems kind of funny to be good at it, but they are. Those blind contour drawings. I've seen a lot of artists who are really good at it. I don't know how you can become good at blind contour drawings, but somehow you do. Yeah, I guess just lots of practice.
Like perspective, kinda.
Yeah. So you guys, if your paint looks really shiny, make sure that you're using a little bit more water. That's kind of what's
Look
happening
at
there.
the flower works.
Cute. Perfect. Looks perfect, Katie. Oh.
I kid.
I was about to draw this.
You failed? And then you have some.
No, you're gonna cut off his blood. Shut up.
Do we have scissors? Lola, can you use the scissors? I've got right there. No.
Yeah, well, like here, like actually gray eyes. Yours are like super gray. Mine are amber.
Yours are la 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 that whole thing comes out.
I know mine.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side, around eye level. Red and purple? Yeah,
I love this color though.
Yeah.
I mix like green and it's
So if you guys are already getting close to finishing, clean up your watercolors and set it off to the side or in the drying rack. Make sure your name's on it. And we're gonna move on in a moment.
What's our next project?
Our next project is going to be illuminated letters that you will see. I will tell you more.
like Illuminati.
Class is almost over.
What's
Yes.
illuminate letters? Do we go and like illuminate that?
No, I'll tell you more. There's a really old art form. It's really cool.
Illuminated letters.
Come with me, Mary.
Oh,
I want you to try it.
voila. I mean a rainbow.
Hi. Not hungry?
I've seen it once, but I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't
Doing better than I
that feeling when the cat from the delivery service is like Kiki was
So you guys want to grab your crayons.
Look at this, it all like pulls away.
That's where it's at.
Should we put on the drying rack?
Yep, put them on the drying rack. And then come back here. So
You do?
They're all cleaned up. Michael, we're going around and collect all the time.
They make the best shows ever.
Did I get everyone's white crayons?
I gotta get yours.
That's all yours.
Yep, put them on the drying rack. Wash out your brushes. Let it dry. Okay, so while you guys are cleaning up, can I talk to you briefly? Yes. So, point your eyeballs towards one of the screens. Look over towards one of the screens while you're cleaning. It should be quiet. Ladies, it should be quiet. So, take a look up at the screens while you're cleaning. So you have a watercolor techniques page. You are going to be filling this out. Take a minute to work on it right now. If you don't finish it today, we'll finish it on Monday. But you're going to write 3 things for each technique. The first one is what steps do you take to do the technique. The next one is I want you to describe in your words what the technique looks like. And then the last one is when do you think you might use that technique? So, take some time right now to work on that. If you do not finish it in the next, we have, I think, 8 more minutes.
I'm not sure if I want to French toast with my.
Take it home. So you guys, if you took out other supplies earlier, please put them away.
When can we take our ceramics home?
You can take them home today. As long as you wrap them up.
I can show the world my cat.